Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to go over how you can make one of the most useful and sought after products in crime analysis. This is a repeat incident report. And so I'm going to show you a really simplified sort of back end of an RMS, and we're going to build from there. These can be built off of responding to the same address multiple times, or the same person's name, or the same phone number calling multiple times. The logic is the same. The fields you'll use are just a little bit different. So for starters, I've already connected my Microsoft Access database to a table of incidents and a table of offenses. Of course, your RMS is going to have different names for those. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a query based off of the incident table. So I'm going to come over here to query design. I'm going to call this a make table query. And I want to query down offenses that have occurred in the past 28 days. So this report is only going to look at addresses we've been at 2 or more times in the previous 28 days. And so I'm going to start by creating a table called 28-day incidents. I'll hit OK. So I'm going to pull my incidents table in. There's some really useful stuff in here. Obviously, I'm going to need incident number. I'm going to need report date. All this other stuff you may or may not need. I'm going to go ahead and leave out the city, state, and the Latin long. If you're going to do some mapping off of this, obviously those would be really great things to have. But since we're just doing a repeat based off of addresses, you don't need it. I'm also going to pull in narrative information. And because I don't want to pull in every incident that's occurred in our RMS, I'm going to use a function here, greater than or equal to now minus 28, just to get the previous 28 days incidents. And if I run this, it's going to tell me that we're creating a table with 89 incidents in it. We can open that up and we can see where these things occurred, the date, so on and so forth. I'm going to go ahead and close that. Then I'm going to make a second query. In this query, we are going to look at that output, that 28-day incident table. And I'm going to pull in the address column, and I'm actually going to pull it in twice. Because in this part, we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to come over here to the totals. And you'll notice that whenever I do that, it adds this total row. I'm going to leave one of these addresses on the default and group by, and I'm going to change the other one to count. So you'll notice now whenever I run this, it's going to count how many times each address occurs in the data. So 5508 Forest Plaza occurs 3 times, 9 West End Way occurs twice. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to filter this second count field down to any address that occurs greater than or equal to 2 times. And you can see now whenever I run that, it's only going to show those 2 addresses. And for simplicity's sake, I'm going to go ahead and just make a table. And we're going to call this table repeat addresses. And we will run it. And now finally, we're going to take one last step. And that is to create a query. We're going to take both of our resulting tables. And we're going to join on the address field. And I'm going to pull in the count of address from over here in the repeat address table. Then I'm going to pull in the incident numbers, the report dates, the reporting officer. You might want the address, and you might also want the narrative. Keep in mind that if you're working with narratives, chances are you're not going to be able to use select distinct functions because those do get very large. And then we are going to run this bad boy. Now you're going to see that we're actually looking at multiple incidents here. That's because we had one address that had 3 incidents and the other one that had 2. So now we've got 5 rows. I'm going to save this, make this a make table query, and we'll call this our final table. Here we go. All right, so now that we have our final table, we can create a report based off of this. I'm going to come over here to the Create tab, and I'm just going to choose a blank report. And I'm going to put this into Design View. Now, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time making this real pretty, but we can do some things real quick, like add a header up here. Repeat incident report. We can make that stand out a little bit by maybe turning it red or something. And we'll center it. There we go. Of course, if you're ever distributing a paginated report like this that's static, I definitely recommend putting a description of what exactly it's showing here. But for the sake of brevity, I'm going to go ahead and start building this report out. So over here in the gray area, if you right click and go to properties and then go to the data tab, you can tell it what table you want it to look at. And we want it to look at the final table. And then I want to add in a group based on the address, and then another group based on the incident number. So up here in the address header, I'm going to go ahead and put in a text box. Now by default, they come with these label boxes attached. I don't really like them. They also come with some really ugly stylistic stuff. So like the border style is solid. I just like to make them transparent. And then I'm going to come over here to the data tab and I'm going to put the address here. And then down below that, I'm going to go ahead and copy this and drag it under here. And then we'll change this to be the incident number. And then maybe we'll also put in the same grouping area the date. And then in the details section, that's where I would put your narrative. And I'm going to make that a little bit bigger by default. This is also really important anytime you're dealing with narratives. I would come over here to the format and I would choose can grow, make that yes, and can shrink, also make that yes. And then I would do the same thing for the different parts of the report as well. So I'm going to click on the details section here, and then I'm going to go to can grow, make sure that that's yes, and also make sure that can shrink is yes as well. So now if we put this into report view, we can see, okay, 5508 Forest Plaza has had 3 incidents. We've got 1, 2, 3 report numbers. We can see the dates that they occurred. All of our narratives are in Latin because I used a service called Lorem Ipsum. There's a whole bunch of different things that we can do with this. One of the more useful things that we might do is put our count there. And obviously we have a whole bunch of stylistic options that I'm not going to go into. There we go. So now it's telling us 5508 Forest Plaza has had 3 incidents, and then here's all the information. If we wanted to throw in some information about the offenses connected to those incidents, what types of offenses they were, whether they were like domestic violence flags or anything like that, we would have to put in what's called a sub-report, and I might do that in a subsequent video. But if we want to package all of this up, I'm going to go ahead and save all of this and close it. I'm just going to keep these default names because I'm lazy. And then I'm going to come up here to create and macro. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on show all actions, and I'm going to choose set warnings to off. Set warnings on, no. Then I'm going to come over here to open query. There it is. And I'm going to go in order. So there's query 1. I'm going to paste that a couple times in here. Change this one to query 2. Change this one to query 3. So when this macro runs, the first thing it's going to do is run all 3 of those queries and update our data for us. And then I want it to actually export a copy of this report. And so I'm going to choose export with formatting. I'm going to come over here to object type is report. The object name is just going to be report 1. The output format, I'm going to make this a PDF, and then I have to tell it where I want it to go. Okay, I'll make a new folder real quick. New folder, repeat incident report. There we go. I'm going to grab that whole location there, paste that in, and then don't forget you have to put in the name of the actual file itself, and you also have to put in a file extension even though you pick that in the output format. And then I'm going to hit save. We'll call this macro run. Now every day when I want to update this, I can manually update it just by coming in here and clicking on macro 1. It will have updated all of our data. There's our repeat incident report that we just exported. And now I can come in here and I can see all of the addresses that have had multiple incidents occur at them in the previous 28 days. Again, didn't spend a whole lot of time making this very pretty, and there's more information we can put in here through the use of subreports, but I'd like to keep these videos short. As always, if you have any questions at all, comments, please drop me a comment, and I'm more than happy to respond.